Hello people, today I'm going to be ranking the Saw franchise. There are 9 of these movies now. Full disclaimer, a year from now this ranking could be different. Like with my MCU ranking, that's like my main list I'm always updating because, I'm a Marvel guy. So, like for example, every single time if you go back and look at the different rankings from when different movies came out, every ranking's pretty different. It's not like I just have the same list and I put the movie there. It's always changing the more I rewatch and, at the moment. So it's just like, this is a general scale right now with the Saw movies. Do I plan on watching most of these again? Probably not. So this could be a list where it just basically stays the same. So let's just get right into it. Coming in at number 9 is Saw 5. And by this movie, I was just really over these movies. I really was. By the time I got to here, I was just like, please stop. And yes, there are technically better movies here. It's just this is the movie where I was just over it. I really was. Where they're trying to go like this, almost like a redemption for John Kramer. It doesn't really try to redeem him, but it shows us these flashbacks that I don't care about. And this is where they start to introduce his wife, which just goes on a road I don't care about. And he's dead, and they're still having this new Saw guy who played him. I know Letterboxd says it. Who played this guy? Because I did not care. Yeah, the character's name is Mark Hoffman. Mark Hoffman's character, I did not care about at all. The only really good thing I could say about this movie is I really like the end where he's in the glass box and he's going back and the guy's getting crushed by the walls, almost like in A New Hope. I really like that trap at the end. I thought it's really cool visually with him in the box, but though the kind of twist with it was a little obvious, and I don't even know what the twist was in this movie, so whatever. Coming in at number 8 is Saw 3D, Saw the Final Chapter, or whatever people call it. Even though this is technically the worst one, it's just more enjoyable than Saw 5, so this is why I have it up. Yes, the blood looks really fake in this movie. I don't know why. It's the final chapter, and yet it has, well, the final chapter has the dumbest twist. It was the twist is like, we've seen this a million times, and it's just like, it just didn't feel necessary. It didn't feel like the grand twist to wrap up with, well, when they thought they were wrapping up the Saw franchise. The traps here felt very repetitive, and yeah, it was semi-memorable, so that's why it's at number 8. Coming in at number 4, coming in at number 7 is Saw 4. This is where at this point, I was getting more concerned of where the franchise was going. And this is the movie where they introduced the ideas of, redeeming. Well, in my eyes, I felt like they were trying to redeem John Kramer or make us feel bad for him. And so they introduced that idea, which I didn't care for. And with these new characters that I don't care for at all, this new Saw, which I don't care for at all, it just, when the series started to go in a very uninteresting direction. The reason why this one's a little bit higher is that, one, it had that John Kramer, he's still kind of, somewhat involved with the tape in his chest and all that. And, there's some elements of the older movies. And I'll just say this, my biggest problem with the franchise is once you get to Saw 3, the franchise is just in love with its other movies. It forgets to be a movie itself, they reflect on the other movies, they have a twist, and they go to the next movie that reflects on the twist of the other movies, and it doesn't really feel like a movie, it just feels like a dwelling and then a twist. That's what the best way I could feel like I could describe these movies, except for a select few. But, yeah, Saw 4 had elements there that were okay, but besides that, it was just a complete misdirection of where this franchise is going. Coming in at number 3, not 3, I'm messing this up. Coming in at number 6 is Saw 3. This is where, this is where the end of the enjoyment of this franchise started. Saw 3 was just, at least John Kramer was in it, and that's the only really great thing I could say about it. And another big problem I have with this franchise, which other movies do, is they have a really hard time connecting a storyline with traps and a storyline of investigation. And that's what the other movies had, especially Saw 2, had really well going for it. And so just seeing these two separated storylines happening at the same time in one movie, and they're both supposed to be equally important. It just makes me feel like I'm watching two movies, and it feels very jumbled. And yet Saw 3 really does suffer from that, I would say. Coming in at number 5 is Jigsaw. I'll say, at around, I felt at first, I'm like, yes, this is going a different direction than the other ones. And I thought that at first, and then they had, well, spoiler alert for Jigsaw, they showed John Kramer to show up, and like, and you're supposed to think, oh crap, he's alive. And what I thought wasn't, oh god, he's alive. My thought was, thank God we have him back, so we can just get back to the roots of this franchise and not have him dead anymore. Come up with a stupid excuse. I don't care. I just want John Kramer alive and back. But then the movie does the twist and it steps back on that, and that's what really soured it for me at the end. And then once they did that, it just became a kind of bland Saw movie. But there were some cool traps in here, with the stock or whatever it was raining down on them, and the rakes falling down and raining onto them. There was some very cool. I think there were some pretty clever traps in here. And yeah, forgive me, I'm gonna stop recording so I can cough because I have a bad cold. So just give me 1 second. Okay, thank you. I'm back. I just needed to get it out. I'm sorry. I have a very bad cough, and I don't know if you can tell I'm congested or not. But anyways, coming in at number 4 is Saw 6. This movie, yes, there is a storyline of what I don't care about with, the new Saw or whoever his face is. I still couldn't remember his name. Mark something. Mark Hoffman. And they still have that going on, but it's very, very minimal. It knows that the fans want, traps. And I like this direction, even though I just like it's a brand new scenario where, this life insurance guy or insurance guy, he's faced up to his crimes. And I like the idea of that. And it's very focused on his storyline. It has some really cool traps as well. And so it was really a light Saw movie. It didn't feel like it was dwelling on the other ones. It felt like it did what it wanted to do, but yet it still had that, element of the new Saw, which in the whole storyline with that, and just really, I didn't care for it. But Saw 6 definitely was a step up from the other ones. But is it great? No, but it's a lot more digestible than the other ones in the franchise. Coming in at number 3 is Spiral. This wasn't really what I wanted it to be, but I had a fun time watching it. I liked, I love Chris Rock and I love Samuel L. Jackson, so there you go. And that's really the only reason what keeps it up from Saw 6, because Spiral has a little bit more of a memorable cast. I'll just say, Spiral has the most predictable twist in the whole Saw franchise. Well, with this one, in Spiral, it had me guessing more because it was my first in-theater experience since, before the pandemic hit, and so maybe that's why I guessed it. Maybe I would have been able to guess the other ones, but this one I just saw embarrassingly obvious, and I'm not gonna spoil it because it's the most recent one. There's minimal traps in here, but it isn't necessarily a Saw movie. It's from the book of Saw. It gets kind of political, but it doesn't feel like it's going overboard with it. It just feels like it's natural to what they were trying to do with it. And I don't think it was like, Chris Rock saying, now I'm going to bring politics into Saw. No, it just felt like, something, it just feels like a good idea. And it is a good idea behind here. It just, maybe the movie wasn't long enough. It just never felt properly explored because, it almost has an identity crisis because, one, it's supposed to be, a movie in the Saw universe, and so, yeah, give us a movie in the Saw universe, but yet it doesn't have too many Saw-driven things, and then, as a movie itself, it's not really sustaining as much as it should. As a crime drama, it does a decent job, and it was a fairly forgettable movie. There are elements there that I do remember, and I don't know if it's because I remember it as well because I saw it in the theater, and because I saw all of these movies at home, Spiral in the theater. So there are some elements in Spiral that are much more fresh in my head than the other movies, and even though the traps in Spiral were minimal, all of them were very effective, I'll say that for sure. And yeah, Spiral is definitely, even though it's not like a revitalization, the best one since the first, what I wanted it to be, it still, I think, did a decent enough job where I am open to see a follow-up, and hopefully that would get its footing down a little bit better. And yeah, so Anyways, coming in at number 2 is Saw 2. This movie was just, it really did shock me because I just heard like, oh, the first one's the only good one. And Saw 2, I thought was a decent movie. It really did, I did have some fun with it. The twist is, this is probably my favorite twist in the franchise because I actually had to sit down and think about it. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And, yeah, Donnie Wahlberg did a pretty good job for this movie for what it was. The traps in this movie were it just felt so much more we're taking it to another level after the first movie, and I think it did a pretty decent job following up to the first one. Even though the first one does definitely hurt this one a little bit, it still has enough, strong points where it felt like we have the original Saw character in here. We have new, interesting characters, and it was just a really fun movie. Coming in at number 1 is, I think, everyone's number 1, and that is the original 2004 film by James Wan, Saw. It's what really started me on this whole entire journey of watching all these Saw movies. Do I regret it? No. Like, even though there are most of these movies in this franchise, most of them, I'd say about 70% of these movies I don't like. I enjoyed watching them, if that makes any sense. There's movies that are trash, but you still like watching them. And for me, it's Transformers. I grew up with the series of Transformers, and so I just love the mayhem of it. And I really do have a lot of fun with Transformers. I know they're trash because they are trash, and so, but I have a lot of fun watching them. And I felt like the same thing with the Saw movies. I really did. Like every single Saw movie I decently enjoyed, except for a select maybe 2 or 3. But overall, I only gave a good score to really the Saw 1 and Saw 2. I barely gave Spiral. I gave Spiral, and by the way, my review, I gave it a 4.6. I recently changed that to a 5 because I don't think I gave it enough credit. But, yeah. Anyways, like, my number 3 in the franchise is a 5 out of 10. So, I'm not particularly in love with it, but, I found them all very watchable. They're not, I wouldn't call them, like, so unbearably bad, but, they do definitely get quite bad, but they're not, like, bad to the point where they're boring. They're just bad because, it's just the way that it is. It's really hard to describe these movies for me. But, yeah, that's my ranking of the Saw franchise. The first one, there's enough said about it, and I really don't need to go over it that much because, it's the first Saw movie, and I really feel like that's all I had to say about it. So, yeah, anyways, comment down your ranking down below. I'm curious, because if you're a Saw fan, just tell me, because I'm not a Saw person. Remember, I watched all these movies within the span of 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah. Anyways, for future reviews, I'm going to be watching Nobody tonight. I don't know if I'll be reviewing that or not. If not, I'll definitely be doing a short. And by the way, YouTube has these new things called shorts. I've been doing them. I don't know if I'll stick with them. I just kind of do it for the fun of it right now. So, yeah, anyways, like I said, comment on your ranking down below. I'm really curious to see what, like, either a Saw fan or just what a regular person thinks of these movies. So, yeah, anyways, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.